Town Hall audio check.
All right, good evening, everyone. We're going to get things started here. We appreciate your patience. Today is Wednesday, April 15th. We're here for our second public hearing regarding the preliminary adopted budget. Just going to say a few things, sort of set out how we're going to go about this meeting so you all can stay along with what we're doing here. After we do Pledge of Allegiance, land acknowledgement statement, we're going to dive right into a presentation from the town. It's going to be presented by Town Manager Jim Manny and Finance Director Brian Sylvia. After that, we're going to turn to a presentation from the school administration, after which we're going to engage in discussion, town council, school committee, along with town and school administrations. It's just part of the budget collaboration process, allows us to identify and talk through anything that we see that maybe we haven't seen yet, or add clarity to things that maybe linger that we have more questions on. So that's what to expect. After we're done with our questions up here, we're then going to turn it over to the public. We want to hear from you. So when we get into that segment, we just ask that you come up to one of the two podiums. There's going to be a book there. We ask that you write your name in the book so we can keep track of who has spoken. Because of the large audience, we're going to limit the amount of time to which each person can speak to 2 minutes. There's going to be a clock over here to my right, which is going to begin counting down. When you begin to speak, you can use it as a sense to sort of gauge yourself. But in terms of where we are in the process, as far as the budget, we had public hearing number 1 last night. We're doing public hearing number 2 tonight. We have to complete 2 before a certain date as required by our charter. We're going to take up final budget adoption on April 27th. At that time, we'll take up any amendments or modifications to the budget. And this is all about working toward a final budget that we can adopt that works for all residents in town. So we ask that you listen, stay informed, and try to be concise as you can when you come up, but we do want to hear from you. This is part of the democratic process, so we appreciate any input you have. But with that said, we're going to dive right into it. First order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. Next on the agenda is the land acknowledgement statement. The town of South Kingstown pays homage to the indigenous people and land in which the town is now located. Let this acknowledgement serve as a reminder of our ongoing efforts to recognize, honor, reconcile, and partner with the Narragansett tribe whose land and water we benefit from today. Next, we have the roll call.
Council President McEntee.
Here.
Council Vice President Marin.
Here.
Council Member Bergner.
She's on her way.
Okay, thanks. Council Member Alley. Council Member Wedgemont.
Thank you. I'm now going to turn it over to School Committee Chair Carol Vetter to take the roll call for the school committee.
Stuart Lander.
Here.
Brad Shear.
Here.
Kate Malsinati.
Here.
Paula Whitford.
Here.
Michelle Brousseau.
Here.
James Restivo.
Here.
And I, Carol Vetter, am here.
All right, thank you. Okay, we're going to dive right into it. We are here for a public hearing with the school committee relative to the town council's preliminary budget for fiscal year 26-27 as adopted on March 18, 2026. Now going to turn over to Town Manager Jim Manny for a presentation.
Thank you, Council President. As you stated, we are here for the second public hearing on the 26-27 fiscal year budget for the town. Last evening, we had a 37-page document that was going over in quite detail. We've been able to narrow that down to a 15-page document tonight, which was about half the size, and we should be able to get through that pretty quickly. For those of you that would like to see last night's presentation, if you look on the front of your packet, there's a QR code that will bring you to last night's full presentation. The town charter requires 2 public hearings for this town on our budget. The first one was last night on April 14th. The second is tonight on April 15th. The final action is required to be adopted by the town council by May 1st. In this case, it will be April 27th at the town council meeting at Town Hall. Person that did a tremendous amount of work on this budget is Brian Sylvia to my left. He's the finance director for the town of South Kingstown. And I'll turn it over to Brian to start this dialogue. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Jim. Please go to page 2. This is some of the highlights for the proposed, the preliminary adopted budget. See, the school operating budget is currently set at $64,313,034. It's an increase of $1,050,730. The town operating budget is proposed at $35,754,674. The debt service budget is proposed at $4,406,516. The proposed tax transfer to the schools is $56,994,773. The proposed tax levy is $80,886,982, which is resulting from a tax rate proposed at $9.09. And finally, the estimated net assessed values are $8,876,821,594. Next slide, please. Page 3 is a breakdown of the preliminary adopted tax levies to support the budget for fiscal year 26-27. On the first column to the left, you see the first is the adopted assessed values, certified assessed values for the current fiscal year that we're in right now. The next column over is the projected assessed values for the next fiscal year. That is going up about $44 million. The next column over is the tax rates that were set for the current fiscal year. Residential and real estate and commercial, were set at $8.94, and tangible is locked per state law at $11.05. The proposed rates for the upcoming year, the next column over, is proposed for residential and commercial at $9.09, and tangible once again is locked at $11.05. You see the levy that was set for the current fiscal year at $79,180,320. And when you equate the assessed values for next year and the proposed rates, you'll see the preliminary adopted levy for next year. That's that $80,886,982. That represents a levy increase over the prior year of $1.7 million, or a levy increase of 2.16%. Based on the assessed values of the town, a 1 cent change in the tax rate would result in $87,765. And the town the state has a cap of a 4% increase on the levy increase. That is set at, if the town were to go to the 4% levy increase, that would result in additional revenue of $1.4 million. Next slide, please. Page 4. Here you see examples of what the taxes would be due on the median assessed values. These median assessed values that you see at $586,300, that was set in the reval that was completed last year with an assessment date of December 31st, 2024. Based on the rate that was set in the current year, that would result in a taxes due of $5,242 for the current year. For next year at the proposed rate of $9.09, that will result in a $88 increase to an estimated $5,329. If the town chose to go to the 4% cap, that would result in a rate of $925, and the median assessed taxes due would be $5,423, represent an increase of $182. Next slide, please. Page 5 is a summary of the property taxes needed for the school operations. So at the top of the page is the tax transfer for education. That's that $56,994,773. The town is backing out $1 million of that because $1 million of that has been moved over by the town council through non-property tax revenue in the current year. So that's where you see the net for for this number at 55,994,773 for the upcoming year. The middle section is the existing debt on the books for the school, for the education. The debt for the upcoming year is going to be $471,131. We're anticipating housing aid for this debt of $155,000 from the state. So the net would be $316,000. And finally, the estimated interest for the year 2 of the bond anticipation notes for the construction of the new high school is estimated at $3,051,000, to which the town is proposing using debt service fund balance of $850,000 to reduce, bring that number to $2.2 million, and the tax transfer need for school operations at $58,512,000. Next slide, please. Page 6 is a summary of the property taxes for the town and a breakdown between town and school operations in terms of this revenue. So based on the amount noted on the last page for school operations at 58,512, 58,512,000, that represents 72.01% of the property tax need of the town. So the tax need of the town is the 81,253. We'll then drill down into that. So the first off is eliminating, or not eliminating, but taking into account the other tax revenue. This is made up of prior year taxes, interest on taxes, and payment in lieu of taxes. That represents $1.2 million. And you see the breakdown between town and school. And then the line under that, current year tax revenue, that is what would be needed left to balance the budget. The next section down is the personal property or tangibles. That is because of the rate lock. We know that is set at $1.1 million. And again, you see the breakdown between town and school based on the percentages noted above. And then finally, current year taxes, and this is made up of residential and commercial. The town will need $79.7 million to balance the budget. And the breakdown again between town and school on those numbers. And then down below the lowest portion, the summary of taxes, you see the $79.7 million, that's the real estate. Tangible at $1.1 million. That's how you get to the $80,886,000. The next line up from the bottom, the second from the bottom, is the overlay and abatements. The town accounts for the fact that we will not be collecting 100% of our taxes. So we're assuming a 99% collection rate. So we're backing out that 1%, and that's how you get to the current year property tax revenue number of $80,029,000. Next slide, please. The top portion again is this is a breakdown on the actual rates themselves. We covered tangible already, that is locked, so I'm just going to jump to the middle section. That is the real estate on the portion of the tax levy. So again, in terms of the real estate number, it's the $79,700,000. And here you see the breakdown between how we got there. And that's the town represents a 9-cent increase on the rate, and the school's 6 cents, for a total rate increase of 15 cents. That 15 cents represents a 1.66% increase over the current year, which again is set at $8.94. And you see the breakdown on the rate between the town and school. Finally, the lowest portion, the bottom portion of the page, is the levy and the breakdown of the levy and the percent. So the top line is the adopted levy for the current fiscal year, the $79,180,000. You're seeing the proposed levy under that at for the upcoming year at $80,886,000. The net change between those numbers is the $1.7 million. And that represents then a 2.16% increase on the levy. And the breaks down again, once again, between town and school. Next slide, please. Page 8 represents a year-end projection for the current fiscal year that we're in. This projection was prepared in early March. It was originally prepared, we were originally projecting a surplus of $1,545,000. There's been one update since then. That's within the Department of Revenues column on the revenue side. When the budget was prepared, the initial projection was prepared, we had taken in about $8,000 in our rental revenue, short-term rental revenue. That has climbed substantially since then. That is a new revenue for the town this year. We were not sure of the projections at the time, but we are now, we've upped that by about 95 to 100,000. And that's why you're seeing a change and the now projected surplus at the end of the year of $1.6 million. Next slide, please. Page 9. Page 9 is a projection of the debt obligations of the town. The top portion is the town's debt service. This is existing debt service of the town. You see in the current fiscal year, 25-26, the current obligations of the town is $1.1 million, of which is being offset by $200,000 from conveyance revenue for open space debt. And you see the town debt reducing over the term that is on the sheet here from approximately $900,000 to $642,000 over this term. The middle section of the page is the existing school debt. That's school debt that is currently on the books. The current year, the town had debt obligations for current school debt of $519,000. We're anticipating state aid to offset these debt obligations of $154,000. So overall, our obligations represent $364,000. And again, you can see over time that will be reducing to just over $197,000. And finally, the bottom portion of the page is the projections at this time, for the new high school project. So the first column again is what was budgeted for the current year in the bond anticipation notes. That is year one of construction costs to cover year one of construction costs on the new high school project. That was $1,750,000. The town is utilizing $682,000 from the debt service fund balance to offset that and reduce the tax implications on this. In the next fiscal year, the town is projecting interest for the bond anticipation notes for year two of construction on the high school project at just over $3 million. And once again, the town is proposing to use $850,000 from the town's debt service fund balance. You'll see each year that bottom line, the total annual future debt obligations, that's going up approximately $1 million, just under $1 million. We're trying to keep that as the debt service for the high school bond gets rolled out over time. Fiscal year 28-29 would represent the first year of the debt obligations on the books. That's where you see the new high school debt at $10.8 million. That's also the first year you see the school housing aid coming in at $3.9 million. By fiscal year 2031-32, that's where the town is anticipating that it will be fully rolled out. At that point, you'll see just the town will be obligated to make the debt obligations of $10.8 million and annually receiving the school housing aid of $3.9 million. That's where we're anticipating at that point it would be fully rolled into the budget. Next slide, please. Page 10 is a summary of the town's general fund revenues. So that top portion will coincide with the numbers presented on the tax levy portion described earlier in this packet. Again, the total for the packet, total of the property tax revenue is at $81,253,000. And you see, as mentioned earlier, those are the corresponding portions that make up that $81.2 million, where you have the current year taxes, prior year taxes, interest, and payment in lieu of taxes. Next, you have the state and federal aid at $7 million. Licenses and permits at $1.8 million. Department revenues at $2.9 million. Revenue from investments at $950,000. Operating transfers in at $866,000. Total operating transfers out at $61.2 million. And finally, the use of fund balance at just over $2 million for overall a general fund budget proposed for the town of $35.7 million. Next slide, please. This slide represents a summary of the expenses portion of the town's general fund budget. So these are the various sections of the town's general fund budget. First section is the general government. That is proposed at $7.4 million. Public safety is proposed at $17.1 million. Public services at $3.7 million. Parks and recreation at $2.6 million. Library at $1.5 million. Other expenditures at $921,000, which, just for a note, that's a lot of the insurances of the town. Contributions to human services and outside agencies is proposed at $182,000. And finally, capital outlay for the town is proposed at just over $2 million, or once again, proposed number of $35.7 million. Next slide, please. On page 12 is a summary of the school department's proposed currently preliminary adopted budget for next year. This is being set right now at an amount of $64,313,000, which represents a 1.66% increase. And you see a summary of both the expenses and the revenue on this slide. That represents an increase of just over $2 million. Excuse me. Adopted is just over $1 million. Next slide, please. Page 13 is some of the special revenue funds that the town budgets on an annual basis for. So Eastdale Office Building is proposed at $115,000. The Senior Services Fund is proposed at $741,000. The Neighborhood Guild is proposed at $1.1 million. The Community Recreation Center is proposed at $893,000. And finally, the Debt Service Fund is proposed at $4.4 million. So overall, the special revenue funds are proposed at $7.2 million. Next slide, please. And finally, this is the proposal for the enterprise funds. These are the self-sustaining funds of the town. The water fund is proposed at $1.7 million. Wastewater is proposed at $5.7 million. And solid waste is proposed at just over $1 million. So overall, the enterprise funds are proposed at $8.6 million. That's all.
All right, thank you, Brian. Now going to hand it over to Superintendent Pedraza for a presentation from the school department.
Thank you. Good evening, Council President McEntee, members of the Town Council, Town Manager Manny, School Committee Chair Vetter, members of the school committee, and members of the public. Thank you for your time and continued commitment to South Kingstown students, schools, and residents. Once again, I will begin with an expression of gratitude from last night. Finding $1 million in additional appropriation in a constrained budget environment is not a small thing. We recognize the hard work this council put into arriving at that preliminary figure, and that effort reflects a genuine commitment to our schools, and we do not take it for granted. Additionally, based on last night's dialogue, I am confident that with continued collaboration, together we will minimize the impact on students and programs as we bridge the remaining gap in FY27. For members of the public, when the district submitted its FY27 budget, we built it on reasonable assumptions, level enrollment, projected benefit rates, estimated transportation costs. As many are aware, since that submission, our picture has changed. Health insurance that was assumed at 10% came in at 12.06, dental at 8.47 rather than the 5%. Surprisingly, the governor's budget reduces our state aid by nearly $458,000. The one-time local appropriation from this fiscal year does not carry forward, adding another $608,000 to the gap. Again, taken together, these known cost drivers, before we have resolved collective bargaining, next year's tuition rates, the expiring transportation contract, or changes to federal funding levels, that total is more than $3.2 million in required costs before we even begin to talk about things like textbooks, new science lab equipment, or additional professional development and training. Again, against that backdrop, that $1 million increase to the local appropriation, we still need to account for the $2.2 million in just those cost categories outlined earlier. Again, if we go with the most recent and sole bid to transportation, it rises up to $3 million. To be clear, the school department is not asking for more than we need. We are asking for what is required to maintain the current program and services South Kingstown students and families depend on, and to protect the district's long-term financial stability. Once again, I am also grateful, as is my team, for this evening's opportunity for further engagement and collaboration with one another and the public, as well as the commitment to the students and families of South Kingstown that I know both the town council and the school committee share. So in interest of hearing public comment, those are my remarks for this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Superintendent. Any questions from council members or school committees as to what we've heard tonight?
So on page 5, so this one is the preliminary adopted operating budget, property tax needs, school operations. Again, it's more of a clarifying, it's probably more of a statement than a question, but I'm curious as to the wording of it. And I apologize, I meant to bring it up last night and I didn't. So the top line, proposed local funding for education, clearly our operating budget. With the debt service payments and the bans, would we really, and this is a honest question, would we really classify that as school operations? Because that money doesn't, unless I'm wrong, that money doesn't come to the schools, right? That's paying, those two lines are paying the debt, that the building that we all got to see when we drove in the parking lot, right? So that's not coming for our school operations. Not to diminish it because it's clearly contributing to funding our schools, but I just want to make sure that I'm understanding this slide properly, where when we're talking about school operating budget, we're talking about our programs and our faculty and staff and things of that nature. So am I right in assuming that the debt service payment and the band's interest technically wouldn't fall under school operations, or am I just kind of misreading that?
So this is meant to encompass all related expenses for education for the upcoming fiscal year. So and included in that is the debt obligations related to education. I can certainly change to that type of a heading, but it's meant to encompass all expenses related to school operation, school related expenses.
I appreciate that clarification. So it's clearly the town is investing in our schools, but I just, when it comes to different buckets of money, I want to make sure people understand there's clearly a school operating budget, and then there's the debt that we're investing into our schools. But I just wanted to kind of make that a little bit more clear for myself. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments on for tonight?
Brian, I just want to clarify a couple of things on the slides. On page 7, you indicate the change in the tax rate is 2.16% as of the preliminary budget that we adopted. But on page 10, there's a reference to 2.72. I just wanted to clarify the difference between those two.
So first off, the 2.16 is the levy change, not the rate change. The rate change is 1.68. And I'm sorry, what was the other page you referenced?
Page 10.
That is the change in revenue.
Okay.
So we had a higher amount assumed for abatements in the last fiscal year because it was a reval year, and that's been lowered. So we're realizing more revenue in that regard as well.
And even with regard to the $1 million adjustment that was made to the budget for the schools, it's still 2.16%.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments? All right, I got a few. Just going to sort of bring up some of the information that we discussed last night. Rather than going down the same line of questioning, because we already know the answer to some of the information, I'm just going to sort of walk it through with you. So can we go to slide 12? Now, in this column, in this slide, in the column 2526 projected, this represents the projected revenue and projected expenses for the year ended June 30, 2026. And this slide is specific to the school department. Now, what we see here is projected revenues in excess of projected expenses of approximately $900,000, which is a good thing. Projected budget surplus, which is reflected on this slide. Now, when we met about a month ago for the joint session, Town Council School Committee, to hear the initial request for increase from the school department, we were shown a presentation with a similar slide that reflected projected revenues in excess of projected expenses for the year ended June 30, 2026, of approximately $230,000. So we established last night, we talked, why is there a difference when you projected a month ago as to what you showed tonight? Different timing as far as what actual has been through, but similar in showing a projection through June 30, 2026. We talked about last night, we're hopeful for a budget surplus, but we really won't have certainty as to a budget surplus for the fiscal year ended June 30, 2026 until April 30th, 2026. Can you just confirm that date?
Afterwards, yes, sir. Yes.
Okay, great. And just to be clear, so everyone's aware of this, when in fact there's an actual budget surplus realized, the amount of the surplus increases the unassigned fund balance, which is now going to lead me to that slide on the unassigned fund balance. Can you bring that up? The same slide we went through last night. Do you have?
That slide was called from last night, the 5-year fund balance summary, schools, parentheses, schools.
Tech team is working on it in the back. One moment, please. It is being projected.
Okay, this is the slide as being depicted now. It is not part of the presentation that has been circulated to the public for whatever reason. Anyway, I hope you can follow along with what we're looking at here. What is represented in yellow is the projected fund balance for the year end fiscal year 27. That's the year ended June 30, 2027. As you can see, that accounts for $1 million of the school's unassigned fund balance being applied toward operations in the year fiscal year 26-27. Okay. Now, what we established last night is that the schools maintain an internal policy that they like to keep their unassigned fund balance at an amount equal to 1 to 2% of the school's operating budget amount. Now, we walked through 1% equals approximately $630,000, while 2% equals approximately $1.26 million. As we can see, the projected fund balance for year end fiscal year 27 is $1.9 million. That's in excess of the higher of the 1-2% threshold of about $700,000. So we look at that and we see a potential opportunity for the schools to utilize part of that fund balance in their operating budget, essentially to fund operations in their budget. Now, it's also important to keep in mind, I walked through a potential projected surplus for fiscal year 26. This fund balance does not reflect any surplus realized for year-end fiscal year 26. We're not certain at this time whether there actually will be a surplus realized, but based on the presentations from a month ago and the presentations tonight and last night, I feel confident that the school administration is at least willing to present a potential budget surplus for fiscal year ended June 30, 2026. I'm hopeful and confident that that will be the case, but we're yet to see whether that will be. In any event, if there is a budget surplus realized, it'll increase the unassigned fund balance even further. So that will also be another opportunity for funds to be utilized to apply toward budget operations. Now, another thing we talked about last night was OPEB. That stands for Other Post-Employment Benefits. Now, the town has an obligation to pay benefits, healthcare and dental to certain retirees, former town and school employees. Now, we retain an actuary every year to give us an opinion as to the amount he or she recommends that should be contributed toward OPEB. Now, at this time, the town has a 150% funded OPEB liability. That means we have a strong financial position with respect to OPEB. That means we have a net asset with respect to OPEB, meaning in the event we were forced to pay all our obligations now, the assets that we've set aside to satisfy OPEB obligations would result in a net asset to us. So, right now in the town's preliminary budget adoption on March 18, 2026, we include an OPEB contribution north of $500,000. In addition, in the school department's budget, fiscal year 26, as preliminary adopted by the council March 18, 2026, it includes an OPEB contribution of north of $700,000. Now, because of the strong financial position of our OPEB, and because of the recommendation from the actuary that we do not have to make a contribution this year, we've looked at the opportunity of allowing the school department to not make a contribution to OPEB, essentially that north of $700K contribution that's already allocated in their budget, they could reallocate that toward operations, essentially frees up north of $700,000 to reapply toward other parts of their budget. In addition, the town council could potentially increase the amount of the transfer to the schools by an amount of north of 500 equal to the amount that it's already allocated its budget to be made toward OPEB contribution. So essentially, instead of making the contribution, transferring the town's portion to the schools, allow them to use it for operations. The net effect of this would be an increase in the property tax transfer to the schools of north of 1.5 million, but it would also allow them that freed up north of 700,000 to be reapplied in their budget. So essentially gets them to, I believe, north of 2.3, somewhere between 2.3 to 2.4, just related to OPEB in combination with the $1 million increase we already made when we adopted the preliminary budget adoption on March 18. Now, in addition to that, is the opportunity to utilize some of this unassigned fund balance to fund operations. We established last night through some communication here, collaboration, that we do not feel comfortable in allowing that unassigned fund balance to be below 2%. I just think that is not financially prudent, but maintaining that 2% and using anything in excess to the extent you feel comfortable with it and applying that toward operations is a way and a means to allow you to fund these different deficits that you speak of with respect to your budget. Go ahead.
Now, I'm just going to echo what I said last night when we talked about this. I just want to say thank you for the town council for looking at all of the ways to fund the school. I think this is an opportunity that the actuary is saying that we don't have to make these contributions. So it doesn't completely close the gap. So we do have decisions to make. I think it's roughly 400,000 left. Possibility is fund balance. I just caution against too much out of fund balance because it's one time only and could be a problem going forward. That being said, having come to this conclusion and with this way forward, it would allow us to preserve all our programs so we would not have to make programmatic cuts to arts, music, and sports and other after-school programs. So we are very grateful. And I'm so glad that we could collaborate and find this way forward. So I just want to say thank you.
Any other thoughts, Councilman?
We also have I'm not sure, I didn't hear you mention this, but the potential surplus at the end of the year between 230 to 900, which hopefully would be able to fund the remaining 400.
Well, we'll be able to use that in next year's budget because we won't know what that surplus is until the end of the fiscal year. And we have to pass a balanced budget before the end of the fiscal year. So I appreciate that. And I think that will help us going into FY28 discussions. But it is not something we can rely on to bank on for a balanced budget for FY27. But I am also hopeful we'll have a surplus there that we can apply to our unassigned fund balance and potentially use in future budget years.
I do also want us to continue the dialogue as your bids come in from, food service and you get the adjusted bid on transportation. Because unfortunately, our contracts are up this year and it's not a great time to be negotiating things. So we do have to keep that in mind also.
Points I want to follow up on with Brian. With respect to the fund balances, and we've discussed this in prior hearings, the idea of keeping a certain percent, and I believe it's 17.3, is the recommendation of the Government Finance Officers Association to have in reserve in case on any particular day something disastrous happens that either the town government or the school department has funds on hand able to respond to that.
That's correct.
Second thing, with respect to the OPEB discussion, I think it's probably worthwhile for the benefit of the public just to mention that the policy has been, and this is, payments are made from the town, not from the school department, but it is incorporated into their budget. The town has operated on a pay-as-you-go system where we make the contributions every year, even though there is funds on hand with the interlocal trust to cover the benefits. At this point in time, we've been told we are at 153% funded, which means that, and this is why the actuary's recommendation was that we don't have to make the contribution this year. The math works this year. It's not necessarily going to work next year. It's not a permanent solution, but it does work for now.
Thank you. I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. And I am, as I said last night, I'm optimistic about closing that budget deficit so we can make sure that all of our amazing arts and music programs, that I participated in when I was in middle school and elementary school will continue. One of the big things I've heard from constituents is that they want a long-term plan to maintain that so they don't have to come in year out and they can plan that stability for their children. And I think we all want that. And I think that we've gotten creative in figuring out how to manage this year. And I think our job as a school committee, town council, district, and town is to figure out a long-term plan so we don't have to have this looming threat of instability in some of the most fun times in a child's life. So glad we're all working together here. Look forward to hearing from everyone. Last night was very successful, and thank you. That's it.
I just want to thank you, Jay, for saying that. And I think that is a point I want to make is that this is a one-time, to follow up on Mike's point as well, this is a one-time solution to next year's budget. And I'm glad we're able to find it. But yeah, we are going to have a discussion about long-term. How do we make sure we're not coming back to the table, coming back to this conversation year over year, as I really don't want to do that.
So after the meeting, James and Carol and I stood together for a minute, and I forgot exactly how you said, how can we prevent this from happening next year? And I think we sort of said, we had identified a work session to happen on April 1st so that we might have come to some consensus and work together, but we didn't realize at the time that it was the first night of Passover, so we didn't hold that work session. So I want to be solution oriented to next year. And when we plan the budget hearings, to plan for enough time to have a work session should we need one next year. Because we had the preliminary discussion, we agreed to a work session. It was supposed to be the first, and then bam, last week we were supposed to go, whatever, Tuesday, Thursday, I can't remember because it's a blur. Truth be told, my autopilot drove me to town hall and I had to come to the high school. I was like, oh my God, so apologize. But I think that's what we need to do is we need to plan for a better session, because I think if we had that work session, we might not have had, we love to see you, but we might not have created all the angst and drama and the concern in the community, and we would have probably had better solutions. And then, so I think in the future, a larger gap for a work session, or we identify as a placeholder ahead of time and then not have it rather than try to scramble to have it. I think that would have been better. I think that was a side post-meeting conversation. I thought it was a great question you asked. What could we do differently to not be here today? And so I think that's how I feel. I don't know if anybody in the council, because it's our shepherding process. So try to be solution focused, but enough on that. I'm really excited to hear what people have to say.
Okay. Any other thoughts? Yep, go ahead.
I'm very appreciative to hear that conversation and to hear this come from you, because I know myself, I know Mike, I know Carol. We've wanted that for many years, and there's most of you, it's 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 9 years, 12 years, and actually 10 years before that sitting out there. So these conversations have happened year over year over year for 20 years. So it would be amazing. And I feel like this collective group, Jay, you pointed out beautifully, this year we've been quite collaborative. Last year was a foundation of creating that. And if we can only continue to do that forward, and I don't think one work session is enough. I think it needs to start after this budget passes in May, and ours solidifies in June. Okay, take July and August, but September, boom, we're meeting, we're discussing, we're planning a long-term 3 to 5 years. We know what our debt service is looking like with the building. We know what's happening as far as cost of living increases. We know our contracts are never going to go down. We know taxes are always going to go up. Everything is going to go up. Energy is going to go up. So we just need to collaboratively plan ahead, because as you said, Deb, love it when there's public, here, but would much rather it not be in a state of angst. So I really appreciate hearing that coming from your table. Thank you.
I want to echo that in the strongest possible ways. We definitely need to continue this dialogue that we have, because we have the ability to work it out, and just try not to worry the kids, because it's a scary world right now. And I just think that if we work better together collaboratively, we can, really do well going forward. So, optimistic about that. I think it was a good learning experience.
14 years. Just want to clarify that. And in those 14 years, I have enjoyed the wonderful collaboration that we have had with the town council in the creation of this budget. And even though I knew we were overfunded on OPEB, last night was the first I heard that we could actually not fund that. And so I'm grateful for Mr. McEntee finding those places of additional funding. I am also, it was a few years ago, a product of South Kingstown Schools, involved in the music program, not sports, because it was before Title IX. But my children were also involved in the sports and the music. And so I think I speak for everyone sitting here, and you can throw something at me if I'm wrong. There's nobody here that wants to see those cuts. But we have to make decisions based on the requirements from the state. I know there's a lot of students out there who would be here supporting us if we said we needed to cut all math instruction. But that can't be done. So our goal is to see that all of our wonderful programs remain. my own children benefited from those programs. I benefited from those programs. My 4 younger sisters benefited from those programs. And we want to see, because school is not just math and English. I know that. But thank you very much for the collaboration that we've had here, and I think we've moved in a wonderful direction.
All right. Any other comments before we open it up? All right. We're now moving to the public comment segment here. What we're going to do is it's going to be a first come, first serve basis. We just ask that you come to one of the 2 microphones. There's going to be a booklet there. We ask that you write your name in there. And there's a button on the microphone. Make sure it's on. And then when you talk into it so we can hear you. When you begin speaking, that clock to my right is going to begin counting down from 2 minutes. We ask that you please try to gauge yourself to stay within the 2. There's a lot of persons here tonight. You know, we're in the auditorium to accommodate more persons. We want to hear from as many as we can. So that's why we're limiting the number of times so we can get to as many we can. So with that said, first come, first serve, come on up. And if you wish, while one person is at one microphone, you can come on down to the second one and be the person on deck to speak next.
Here we go. Hi, everybody. I'm Jennifer Kruger, resident of Wakefield, and the parent of a graduating senior who has truly thrived in the South Kingstown schools. I want to start by acknowledging that the council and the town manager are balancing many competing needs, including the concerns of taxpayers, and I appreciate those concerns and your strong sense of fiduciary duty. I'd like to take a moment to ground us in what this conversation represents, at least for me. The proposed school budget is not a request for expansion. It's the cost of maintaining an effective and equitable school system after 6 years of level funding, during which the district already consolidated schools, reduced staff, and relied on one-time funding that is no longer available. At the same time, fixed costs like healthcare and transportation have continued to rise. Despite reductions in staff, 17 positions in 24-25, 15 positions in 25-26, salaries and benefits still increased, $950,000 in 24-25 and more than $500,000 in 25-26, despite cutting staff. My point is that not only homeowners and individual residents are feeling this strain, the rising cost of groceries, fuel, housing, healthcare, all of those things we're experiencing are affecting the school budget and by extension, the children it serves. Without funding, the cuts being discussed are not abstract. They directly affect students, especially those with the least access to resources outside of school. For many families, school is the only place where their children can participate in these activities. Programs that include the arts, movement, extracurricular activities are not separate from learning. For many students, they are the entry point to engagement, connection, and resilience. They also help develop critical thinking, creativity, and collaboration, skills that matter not only for the workforce, but for building thoughtful, capable adults. I'm going to wrap it up real quick here. I think since I can't finish my entire conversation and we're going to let everybody else talk, I just really want you to think about the students who cannot access these opportunities in other places and what that means when public education doesn't offer all these different important entry points to learning. And I hope that you will work hard to make sure that that happens. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you hear me now? Awesome. So I appreciate and acknowledge tonight's conversation and how it seems like there might be a path, that there's some opportunities that have been evaluated. But I'm going to be honest, you asked me to do a lot of math in my head, and it was really hard for me to track what cuts are still on the table versus what cuts are no longer in the table. So I guess I just want to say that for us to have clarity and ability to understand, is there still things that we would not agree for it to be a cut, if we can receive an updated table that considers these great opportunities and changes that you have been able to find, and clarify for the community what is still in the table. But because even though perhaps sports, fantastic, are going to be protected, maybe there are some other programs that align with students' health, mental, or having access to transportation that may still be in the table, but it's not clear that they're not. So that's what I'm asking for, an updated. That would be awesome. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Cutting school sports isn't about just losing games. It's about losing a vital support system for the growing of these kids. Research shows that student athletes tend to have higher GPAs and graduation rates because school sports provide the discipline and motivation that keeps us engaged in the classroom. Beyond academics, these programs are a primary defense against the current mental health struggles kids are going through, offering a proven way to reduce anxiety and build physical and mental strength. If we eliminate these programs to save money now, we will end up paying a much higher price and declining the student well-being and a fractured community identity. These school sports represent our community, and you can't just take them away due to budget cuts. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And just as a reminder, we ask that you just state your name for the record.
Good evening. I'm Kaya Hathaway.
And I'm Giselle Beauclair.
We are both students of Broad Rock Middle School who participates in our school softball team and our band classes. We both believe that these are important for our school. Sports and bands are a big part of what makes our school fun and exciting. They give students a chance to be part of a team, learn new skills, and show their talents.
In sports, people stay active and learn how to work together and never give up. In band, students get to play their music, be active, and perform to others to show their talent. Both activities also bring everyone together at games and concerts, which makes school feel more like a community. When sports and band have the support they need, more students can join and have those same great experiences. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, no, we're not set.
Good evening. My name is Isla Miller, and I'm here to talk about something that has changed my life this year and last: sports and school activities. At the beginning of my 6th grade year, I was scared. I didn't know many people, and I wasn't sure where I belonged. School felt overwhelming, and some days I didn't even want to be there. But then I joined the softball team. Everything started to change. Through sports, I made friends, real friends who support me, laugh with me, and make me feel like I matter. We worked together, encouraged each other, and learned how to be part of something bigger than ourselves. It wasn't just about winning games. It was about teamwork, confidence, and growing as a person. There were days where I felt stressed or upset, but on those days, I knew I had practice to look forward to. For that hour or two, I could forget my worries, laugh with my teammates, and feel happy again. That made a huge difference in my mental health. Even today, we came off with a tough loss earlier this evening. And yeah, it hurts, but what sports have taught me is that moments like this don't define us. They help us grow. They teach us how to support each other, how to keep going, and how to come back stronger. Sports, band, and orchestra aren't just activities. They are places where kids find their people. They help us build confidence, stay active, and feel connected to our school. Not every student learns best by sitting at a desk. Some of us learn by moving, creating, and being part of a team. I know there's been discussion about continuing to support these programs, and I'm really hopeful about that. It means that so much students like me will continue their joys. Because of these opportunities, if these opportunities continue, more students will get the chance to find their place, just like I do. I started this year scared. Now I feel like I belong. I just hope future students get to feel that too. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Liam, who's an 8th grader for the Broad Rock Middle School soccer team.
I'm Ryan, an 8th grader for the middle school soccer team.
So I understand this comes down to the budget, and I know everything costs money, but with sports, you're getting way more than what you pay for. Our coaches put in more time and effort than they're asked to, and they truly care about the players. Middle school and JV sports aren't just extras. They're where kids learn, improve, and create friendships. Taking that away means a lot of kids lose their chance to play and be part of something. And you can see how much this matters to us just by looking around this room. So many people showed up because they care. And that should mean something in making this decision.
The highlight of my middle school time has been the honor of playing for our school. I have formed deep bonds with kids across multiple grades and have felt proud every time we step on that field to represent our town. We were so proud to be state champions this year and want the opportunity for the upcoming generations to have the same feeling we had on the field over the past 3 years.
Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the Town Council community. My name is Sophie Cox, and I'm a 3-sport athlete at Broad Rock Middle School. Throughout the year, you can find me on the cross-country trails, the basketball court, and the track. I'm here tonight because these aren't just extra hobbies to me, they're my identity. When people talk about cutting sports to save money, they look at jerseys and equipment as expensive. But I want you to look at what those things actually buy us. Cross-country taught me how to push through pain when I wanted to quit. Basketball taught me how to trust a teammate and work toward a goal bigger than myself, and track taught me that every second of hard work counts. For many of us, sports are the primary reason we stay engaged in school. It's where we find our mentors, our best friends, and our sense of belonging. If you cut these programs, you aren't just balancing a budget, you're taking away from the heartbeat of our student body. I'm asking you to find another way. Don't cut the finish line before you even had the chance to run. Please keep our sports alive. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Aubrey Bowers, and I appreciate that you may have found a way, but I still like to say my speech from last week. I am currently a 7th grade student at Broad Rock Middle School. I am here today because I care deeply about something being considered for cut, our school sports programs. I have been fortunate enough to run cross country in the fall, play basketball in the winter, and dual sport in the spring with track and softball. To some people, sports might look like games or after-school activities, but for students like me, they're much more than that. Balancing practices, games, and homework, and family responsibilities isn't always easy, but it's taught me how to stay organized, plan ahead, communicate, and use my time wisely. Responsibility and time management skills help us succeed not just in school, but in life. When we're part of a team, we learn how to support each other, work together, and represent something bigger than ourselves. For example, when our boys soccer team made it to the state championship game, so many students wanted to support them that the school had to take 3 buses to the game. Sports give us a reason to stay motivated in school, help us feel like we truly belong, and build school spirit. Not every student feels successful sitting in a classroom all day, but sports give us another place to grow and lead. We learn to push through challenges, believe in ourselves, and keep going even when things don't go our way. We have opportunities to encourage others, set a positive example by working hard in practice and stepping up when it matters most. Those lessons build confidence and leadership both on and off the field. Middle school can be a difficult time, and sports give students a healthy positive outlet, reducing stress, building friendships, and teaching leadership in ways that can't be replaced. Sports are not extras,
They're an important part of our education and development. Please don't take that away. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Lucia Hubbard, and I have lived in SK for all of my life. I'm 12 years old, and I'm currently part of the Broad Rock Village. But this isn't about me, it's about something bigger, a community. This community fosters the creativity of every child that lives here, and just thinking about a school day without that upsets me. Is it enough that parents must fight for their children, but the children of the district now must defend themselves against the choices made by adults that affect them the most? Just to put this in perspective, almost all of the families in this room took time out of their day to fight for these programs. I know I did. Why are we once again fighting for something that many districts consider the bare minimum? I speak for many when I say that refusing these programs would be the wrong choice. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good at pushing buttons. Well, I came tonight. I was here yesterday. I'm Bob Traeger, a senior citizen, and a very proud one, I might say, listening to these young people express themselves in so articulately. I came for that, and I got it, and I'm a happy person because of it.
Thank you.
All right, good evening, members of the Town Council and School Committee. My name is Becky Mulholland, and my comments this evening are informed by a variety of experiences for myself. One, I'm a taxpayer. I'm a graduate of South Kingstown Public Schools, former director at Yale School of the Environment. I've worked on advisory boards for Common App. I serve on the National Committee for AI and College Admission. I currently serve as the director of first-year admission and operations at the University of Rhode Island. I am also a member of the Governor's Initiative for Rhode Island Math Collaborative, and many more. But importantly, I'm a concerned citizen, a parent, and someone who's frustrated that I've had to stand up here every couple of years, along with everyone else in this audience, and have the same conversation. We know, not we think, we know, because it is a fact, that these types of activities, athletics, the fine arts, global competency, are critical to allowing our students to succeed outside of the K-12 system. Many of our students will go on to military, college service, agriculture, whatever it is, we know that they need these programs. These are essential attributes of their education. These are not extras. And the fact that we have to continue pushing those of you around the table tonight to understand that we shouldn't have to debate this every single year. We've closed facilities, we've cut staff, we've increased class capacities, and yet every single year we get nervous that the fundamental rights of our students are going to be at risk again in the public school system. South Kingstown remains in a top tier grouping for academics, but what sells this community is all of these pieces that our students get. We need a particular demographic of young families to move into this town. And when we are constantly in limbo, it does not provide those home buyers confidence. So I am so proud of all of these students here and all the other parents, but I would absolutely implore you to consider these things ahead of time, including planning and scheduling, as many of you said. I'm wrapping up for it. One last thing, and I appreciate that everyone was kind in sharing thanks, but there was an incredibly important music festival tonight for many of our students in this district that was canceled. And there are children that were sad this morning because they did not get to participate because of a complete lack of planning by members on this stage. You know that this is an important topic for our community. You should have scheduled this in the high school, open the doors, and let people show up. So moving forward, I hope, and I speak for a lot of us, that you will really take those comments to consideration. Our students deserve better. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is it on? Oh, good. My name is Scott Kushner. I live in Wakefield. I'm not gonna. I can't outdo these guys. So everything they said. What I do want to register is that I'm a parent. I'm a taxpayer, a homeowner, a colleague of at least one of you on the stage, and my hope is that as the committee and the council continue their work in the years to come, that you really do the long-term planning that we need so that we don't continue having this conversation. And I speak for myself. I spoke to my neighbors on the way up. They said, they said I could speak on their behalf as well. I hope that you all, especially on the council who set tax rates and things like that, will feel empowered to lead. And when we need to make investments in things like our schools in order to allow them to continue to thrive and not just be level funded, I hope that you'll feel empowered to lead and not just feel the need to keep the taxes steady. Sometimes you do need to make investments. Carol's heard me say this over and over again at work. Sometimes you do need to make investments in order to continue to have your services meet the needs of the community. And I don't like paying high taxes any more than anybody else, but for good reason, I'm willing to pitch in, and I think many of our friends and neighbors are as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Mary Kutcher, no relation to the other person. I just want to say, when you give the school department the same money year after year for 6 years, you're actually giving them less money. We call this level funding, but it's not. And we all know that because of inflation, it's less money. If your salary stays the same every year, you're making less money. That I think everybody agrees with. After 6 years of reductions, we've closed schools. There's no more to close. The student population is the same as last year, so the staff has to be the same. After we get this brand new school that's looking amazing out there, and after they get a look at that brand new athletic field, you guys are going to love it. It's amazing. All the kids in this area are going to want to come to this school. They're going to all be jealous, and Narragansett's going to have nothing on us. So while I appreciate your creative budget solutions and finding the money that we need this year to keep our amazing programs going, by not raising the tax transfer, you're causing the school committee to start in the hole again next year. So this year, they started in the hole $600,000 because you get a creative solution last year. So when they asked for 2.5 million, that included the $600 finding money of last year. So now you want them to add 1.2 million from the OPED, which will be another creative solution. And maybe there'll be a surplus they can use. So next year, we're looking at starting in the hole at $1.5 million. So when is this going to stop? This is just kicking the can down the road. You need to raise the tax transfer. That's what solves this problem. So stop this nonsense, raise the tax transfer, and take a look at your $24 million surplus budget that the town has. How come we never hear anything about that? Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'm a part of the school softball team. Although I wasn't going to speak tonight, but while I was sitting here listening to all my friends and teammates speak, I wanted to just say that even though school sports and extracurricular activities do cost money, I do hope that you just consider not cutting all sports and music, because those are necessary for our student bodies and mind.
Thank you.
Good evening again. Well, as we can see, we have been building great citizens in our schools and parents, and it's wonderful. And I know that all of you want to invest in our schools as well.
But what my concern is if we don't look at how much of our taxes are going to our schools, each year we're going to be at this situation again. And there's only so much each year that you can raise because it's capped. It was talked a lot about last night. And my concern is if we're not forward thinking into how much things are going to increase in costs next year, everything is increasing. Our world right now is continuing to grow from an expense perspective. Just look at how our gas prices are right now. That is going to impact contracts. It's going to impact all of the negotiations that you're talking about right now, so that the cost is even going to be greater next year. And I love that you're creative, but it's not going to help from a long-term perspective. I think you need to look at how much is being transferred from the taxes and look at what are we thinking next year, so that we're not causing ourselves into a situation that there's not going to be money available next year. Because as you can see, sports, music, mental well-being, investing in that gives us good citizens, gives us great students. And I think it's something that we should be sure that we're looking forward thinking. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm going to be less aggressive than I was last night and try to be less loud too. I got some feedback. Last night I had something planned and written, and I'm passionate about music, sports. But today I'm here as my other role. I'm also a teacher at Broad Rock. Surprisingly, I'm a middle school teacher. For 20 years, I was an elementary school teacher. I just found out last year that I'm a middle school teacher. These kids, Cameron, my daughter's going to hate this. These kids are my family. And I love them. We have hand signals. I love them. And that's because of the teaming. We get a chance, we get an opportunity to meet as teachers, as a team, to talk about these kids. And when we see someone not feeling well, or when we see someone really shining, we can bring light to them. We also create a place, I hope. I hope that we create a place that they feel safe to come talk to us. We get to know each other on a really incredible level. My 8th graders last year have lunch with me, and it's such an important piece to the middle school model, is to have these teams. Sports are important. They bring attention. Music is so important. Sports is so important too, sorry. It brings attention, but the teaming, it's underlying. It's not as talked about. It's so important. So when you're making these cuts and we're still short a little bit, let's go with the junior high model. Please get that off the table. You're going to deny these kids that comfort and that family feeling that middle school really is. Broad Rock is a wonderful place. I had no idea I was a middle school teacher. It's amazing. So teaming is everything. Please continue with the teaming. Thanks.
Thank you.
My name is Quinn Mizak. Now, I understand that we are in debt, but the thing is that Rhode Island has paid for our sports and music for 6 years. We have lost staff, schools, and buildings. Kids around the world have benefited from sports and music. It has raised spirits, people have made friends, and helped mental health increasing. I just hope that you can take this into consideration. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jen Dunphy. I was born and raised in SK. I was fighting this fight when I was in high school. We won't say how many decades ago that was, but is like Becky Mulholland said previously, it's infuriating that we are still fighting this fight every few years. When I was a junior and senior, we're out on the streets with signs, trying to save sports, trying to save music, trying to save the arts. SK is an affluent town within this state. We pay lots in taxes, but we're an affluent town, and it just is both mind-blowing and infuriating to me that every year we are here fighting over the same basic things for our children. We see money going out the window when children from SK are going to other districts, and we have to pay for those kids going to those other districts. When are we going to think strategically, long-term future of SK, bring it back to what it used to be, top-notch academically, top-notch sports, music, the glory that used to be South Kingstown. Instead of seeing students leave, let's invest in the schools, invest in our kids, and see students want to come to SK. But when, like Becky said, every year we're fighting for just the basics, that's not going to happen. They're going to go to Narragansett, they're going to go to Charo, they're going to go elsewhere. So I think, instead of the Hail Mary every year and the poor planning in advance, let's think about the buildings that we have available to us, the spending, and come up with a long-term roadmap of how we don't have to do this every year, because it is infuriating. And I've been fighting this fight for 30 years. I'm going to keep fighting the fight every year because I love our schools and I love our kids. But you guys need to get it together and figure it out long-term, not 1 year at a time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Ariana Roman Velez, and I'm currently in 6th grade. So, many students, including myself, believe that without the sports, world language, counseling, and late transportation services, the school could face significant challenges. These challenges could include worsening mental health issues, reduced focus, and declining grades, which could negatively impact the students' future learning opportunities. Furthermore, eliminating world language programs could be very bad. These programs serve as an introduction to Spanish, French, and Italian, making it easier for students to begin their chosen language, because starting from scratch would be a heavy workload for students and teachers. Plus, no one likes a heavy workload. Lastly, the absence of late transportation services, late transportation would severely limit the number of students who can participate in extracurricular activities such as band help, math help sessions, or even honor society. In some cases, students may miss the bus due to misunderstandings, or even trying to get their instrument in a crowded band room. Trust me, I know from experience. Additionally, students with working parents who can't leave their work for after extracurricular activities to pick their kids up from school could be particularly affected. Therefore, I, along with many students, teachers, and even some bus drivers who help with late buses, strongly believe that these programs are essential and should not be discontinued. They serve a purpose and contribute to the overall well-being and success of our students, because they are there for a reason and aren't just there to be there. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hello? Okay, my name is Noah and I'm a student at Broad Rock Middle School. Me personally, I think this whole thing about money should not be happening in the first place. I think you guys need to keep up with the times and provide more money for our sports and supplies, because you guys are cheaping out all of our supplies, or at least the majority of them are really run down and beat up, and we need new stuff. If you guys want good students and better effort by them, you guys need to be providing more, and it's really getting old. It's the same stuff every year, and there's almost no diversity, and I think that is not a good thing, because students, they're not. Why does it keep doing that? And nobody really likes stuff that if it's the same every year, right? So I think you guys need to be providing more and provide more funds for more stuff, and you guys need to like maybe invite more sports, different sports. Some people do different stuff, and I think you guys need to understand that. And honestly, that's pretty much all I have to say. Just do better. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, I was definitely not going to speak, but all these kids are making me feel like I have to now because they're very brave, and so okay, I'm gonna be inspired by the kids. I don't need to say anything about music and sports and all that because you all know, and it's getting ridiculous clearly to everyone who has been through this like so many years. This is just not something that should never be on the table again, unless you're trying to work on kids practicing their public speaking, which is great, and I think they're doing amazing at that. But this should never come up again. The end.
Thank you.
Okay. Hi, my name is Mia Rose, and while I wasn't planning on speaking tonight, I'm feeling pretty motivated, so I'm doing this on the fly. While I'm a member of the softball team, I'm here to bring attention to bands. I play saxophone in our middle school band. Recently, our 8th grade band went to the annual state festival in Kikkinuit Middle School. At this festival, several schools from around the state come to show their talent. Our band earned a rating of excellent, and while that may not mean much to you, this is a big accomplishment for our band. We spent the several weeks leading up to this preparing for the concert. Some people may not like band as much as others, but this event makes our community come together. As my band teacher would say it, we do the thing. I have to be so honest, I really like band, so please don't take that away from us. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Maria Hunter, and I'm a resident of South Kingstown, and both of my children came through the South Kingstown Public Schools, and I'm also a teacher at Broad Rock Middle School. In addition to the concerns about supporting our extracurricular activities like sports and music and other clubs that we have, I think one of the biggest risks is with the lack of funding is putting our structures in middle school at risk. I really support what Julie Geary said earlier. This is a really vital part of these children's lives. Between the ages of 11 through 14, they're going through rapid changes. As if you've been a parent of a middle school student, you know that. And so our interdisciplinary teams provide a really supportive kind of family-like atmosphere for kids. They're under so much pressure these days. When they're going into 6th grade, the worst thing to happen would be to throw them into 6th grade like they're mini high school students. With a junior high school model, that's exactly what would happen. They would just be going class to class. There wouldn't be a sense of community. In our interdisciplinary teams, one of the teachers I work with right now, actually 2 of the teachers I work with right now, we've been teaching together on and off for years. In fact, I believe that that Mr. McEntee was one of our students. I believe it's at some point in that. So we do things like team breakfasts, we do field trips together, but it's a real community building. It really builds community for the kids, and they have a sense of belonging, and they really need that as they're navigating all of these changes in their lives. It's also very beneficial to parents because as an interdisciplinary team, we can have parent meetings during the day. Parents can sit down with us. We all know their children together. We know the parents well. If we have a junior high school model, we're not going to be able to accommodate parents in that way. So I really urge you to consider how it would be detrimental to kids if we drop the middle school model. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Addie. And my name is Maggie. And we are both 7th grade students at BRMS. I, Addie, recently injured my knee and are no longer able to participate in track. This has led me to realize how lonely it is without a sport. The only thing I now look forward to is chorus. The idea of both being cut makes me absolutely devastated and can't imagine other students feeling the same way.
I know I agree with how being a student athlete has improved my school experience. As for music, I've seen chorus and orchestra classes double in size, and it's devastating to see how they have to be canceled for this ongoing problem.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hi, I know I was already up here, but I forgot to say in my speech how important music is also. I mostly focus on sports. But music is also very important. I do chorus myself. My sister does elementary school music, so I want to say that.
Thank you. All right. After you complete, I just want to state, there are a lot of persons who haven't spoken yet, and we do want to give everyone the opportunity to speak once. You can, finish up what you do want to say, but just as we go forward with the meeting tonight, so go ahead.
All right. My name is Maya Robinson. I'm a 6th grade student at Broad Rock Middle School. In my opinion, these kids use the field as a learning lab, which motivates us to get better grades and catch up with all of our work so we can play. Which is what a math book alone can't provide. If we get rid of these programs, and the kids will transfer schools, and we will have a lot more of a problem. So please don't take away this from us. It's one of the only things that we can enjoy at our age.
Thank you.
I'm Roberta Mulholland, Matunic resident, voter, taxpayer. First, I have a question that I hope you will answer after I'm finished my 2 minutes. The creative solution that Rory seemed to be reading tonight, I heard him talking about this last night, and I don't remember hearing this at any budget meeting or any town council meeting, which I do watch. So if you could just point me to when this was discussed, I would appreciate it. So going to my comments. I'm a graduate of every school in this district, including 2 that are no longer in existence. One's no longer in existence, one is closed for, 12 years. It is so disturbing to see the kids that come up here get younger, you've gone past the high school kids, and we have middle school children anxious, worried about this. This is not right. These kids are so articulate. These kids are so great and brave to get up here and speak. But what you put them through is unnecessary, and it's really shameful. And I agree with Becky Mulholland that it's time to stop this. Stop this threat. Music, sports, arts. Unless you were raised by wolves in the forest, you know the importance of music, art, and sports. Please stop it. I think that one of the things we need is a more transparent process, a more transparent town council. And I want to say congratulations that this is the most opaque town council that I have seen in 35 years of attending and watching town council meetings. Your job is to be transparent. When people come to a public meeting, you should not be turning them away at the door because you have too many people in the room and then continue the meeting. That is outrageous. You shouldn't have done it. Those should not have been scheduled for that town council chamber. You knew you were going to get this because, once again, school committee threatened music, sports, and art. And the one thing that's missing in what's being said here tonight are the people for whom a 15 cents tax rate increase matters, who struggle to pay those quarterly taxes, who've lived here all of their lives. And you put them in a position that they can come here and speak or come to the council chamber and speak, and they're not going to because you shame them. And these are part of our community. These people are important parts of our community. So please educate the students about what tax increases mean to the people who are not the part of the wealthy, affluent South Kingstown, and stop doing this. Shame on you for putting these kids through this, for putting parents through this, and for putting the taxpayers through this year after year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, sorry, I ran out of time last night, so I'll be quick. Katie Garvin, I live in Kingston. I am super grateful, like lots of people are saying, that it seems like the things that very clearly matter are going to be, we're going to find that money for the coming year. Very enthusiastic about what we can do for, the long-term plan. One thing I just want to be really strongly advocating for, if we do get down to like 50,000 here or 70,000 there, it hasn't come up much, but is that substance abuse counselor, that student assistance counselor role, that is huge. So for any parents in the room who've ever needed the support of that amazing human being who kids absolutely love, every year at back to school night, he's the only person at Broad Rock who literally, like, everybody's, they're hooting, they're laughing for him. Kids love him. He has an incredible connection with students at Broad Rock and carries it over to the high school. I don't know if he's the only employee that works at both buildings, but I know he's the only one that I know of. I mean, there might be more, but he definitely builds that relationship in the middle school and then carries it through the high school. So that position is critical. Again, families who have utilized that, students who have utilized that particular position and what he brings to the table, they know how important that is. So just when things start to get down to, the real nickels and dimes, I just want to make sure that we're really paying attention to how vital that role is. And it may very well be for, students and families that aren't always going to be the people that are at the podium. And then many of us who all are at the podium, we just really want to make sure that everyone is clear that that is like a cannot go. We're already down, I think it's 3.5 mental health professionals in the last 3 years. Thanks.
Thank you.
My name is Owen Stamp, and I'm in 5th grade. And next year I'm going to Broad Rock, and I'm really looking forward to the Broad Rock soccer team. And I'm sure a lot of other people are too. I just wanted you to make the right choice and give them that opportunity to be on that team. And my older brother Eli, who is in the stage somewhere up there, he plays trumpet in the 7th grade band. And I think he'd be very disappointed if he saw it go away. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jacob. I'm a 6th grade student at Broad Rock Middle School. In my opinion, I think that you should absolutely not take away sports and music at Broad Rock. I play soccer and basketball at Broad Rock. Winning a state championship for Broad Rock was a amazing first year. So I'm asking you, just please, for the kids, for this community and kids in South Kingstown, to just keep the sports and the band, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Michelle Peach. I don't have a lot to add. People have made a lot of fantastic comments, but since it's a public hearing, I want to go on the record as supporting the school district and supporting all the efforts that you guys are making to try and make sure that they don't just get level funded, but continue to grow. And I just wanted to, remind everybody about the bigger context that, yes, it's about investing in our kids, but even more than that, it's about investing in our community. You listen to these kids come up here and you hear how eloquently they speak now. In like 20 years, they're going to be youth. And so they need to be able to argue and reason and discuss these issues in a meaningful way, talk about what they're passionate about, act on those values. Similarly, the teamwork and the hard work ethic that they learn in their sports and their drama and their music, that's what's going to help them become the people who, and the ability to take risks. That's what's going to help them become the people who start new small businesses in our community and allow our community to flourish into the future. And so I just want to remind that as part of the context that it is about investing in these kids individually, but it's also about investing in all of us and in all of our community. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, along the idea of long-term solution, nobody wants these programs to be cut. They don't have to. Question is, how do we pay for them? Let's start with what's on the taxpayers' point. $150 million bond, $7 million annually in principal and interest payments on the school bond, about 20 years, paying for the rest of the town services. Right now, 73 cents of every tax dollar goes to the schools, 2,400 kids, at a price of about $24,000 a kid. Student ratios, Barrington, North Kingstown, East Greenwich, 13-1. Our schools, Matunic, 10.5-1, Peacedale, 10.3-1, West Kingstown, 11.75-1, Broad Rock, 11.25-1, and the high school, 11.04-1. When is the crisis enough to re-examine the collective bargaining? When dental costs go up and healthcare costs go up, the taxpayers are expected to bear all of the burden. These salaries and benefit packages are not sustainable. It is time that the school department adjusts their salaries and benefit packages to absorb some of these exploding costs instead of passing them all on to the taxpayers. With 25 years of student decline, birth rates declining, this is not the time to raise the floor, which, by the way, if you look at your contract, you can't be declined after it's raised. If the school department really cares about these kids, they will do the right thing, open up their contracts for review, and if they do that, they will find the money they need to keep all these programs. Maybe that's why ultimately there's the evergreen contract, because it's never been about the kids. It's been about you.
Thank you.
Hey, good evening, Matt Robinson, coach at Broad Rock. I want to thank all the athletes for coming out here. You know, although they shouldn't have to. My kids just got done defending their dirt earlier this evening. Instead of being at home, getting ready for tomorrow's game, they're here having to stand up for themselves. And why? You know, these kids are the future of this community. And a failure to invest in their future is an investment in failure for us here. You know, it's many of the other speakers have come up and made points that, you know, I'd want to bring up as far as, you know, the budget, where the money's going, the importance of sports and music and arts and everything that we have here. I mean, the absolute expectation is to have these programs for our kids. If that's not getting done up here, you know, you really need to look yourselves in the mirror and figure it out. Because this is not something that should continuously happen to them, where they should have to come up here and defend their own interests. All right, we owe it to them to provide it to do better.
Thank you.
Before you push the button, I want to tell just a very quick story for all these kids here. A story of something that happened in my life. I'm in awe of all of you. Every student that's here, whether you came up to the microphone to speak or not, the fact that you came here to advocate what you believe is true and correct, and it makes your lives better. I hope you'll continue to do that throughout your lives, because that's what this community and every community, wherever you live, needs people like that. Okay, so my story goes like this. As a college freshman, one of the first courses I had was a half a year of public speaking and half a year of writing. And so depending on what teacher you got, you didn't know whether or not the public speaking part was going to be first or writing. So unfortunately, mine was public speaking. So on the first day of class, I was sitting in the back, and the teacher said, what I'd like to do is have everybody come up front and speak for 5 minutes and tell us about yourself, you know, and who you are, where you're from, and all that stuff, right? All right, so for the entire class, I'm sitting in the back, I'm sweating like crazy. I'm going, oh, please, oh gosh, do not call me. Please, I'm begging you, don't call me, right? And I didn't get called. So the next day, I went to the bursar's office and I dropped the course. Now to graduate, I had to actually take the course. So as a senior, I took it for half credit. Now, that wasn't a really smart idea, but by then I had learned a little bit about how to have the guts to come up to a microphone. But even today, for me, this is not easy. But I'm in awe of you guys. All right. Can I start my 2 minutes now?
Go ahead, Doral.
Okay. Oh. Okay, so 35% of the people who live in this town are 65 and older. We are the biggest demographic in the town now. That wasn't like that when I was your age, for sure, but it is that way today. Those people we're all living in fixed incomes. You know, there's inflation. Everybody's facing this now, inflation. You know, the cost of food, utilities, gasoline, home and auto insurance, and on and on. It hurts. You know, when you say it's just an $88 increase, as Jim, I mean, I think Roberta said, at $88, it adds up. If it was $88 this year, what was it last year? And you're facing the debt service coming up on the high school. And it's easy to raise people's taxes if you don't pay your own. The past 5 years, our cost per student has gone up, and then they averaged 5% a year. And when that cost per student goes up, so does the floor at which everything else goes up. Specifically, the thing that I gave you last night, which I didn't get to mention, our tuition to other publics over the last 6 years has risen 60%. When the floor goes up, the tuition we pay to those districts goes up. So that's going up 60% or 10% a year. And the cost per student on the first day of school in South Kingstown, you take all that money that we're sending out to other school districts or to charter schools, and you divide that by the number of students, and that's a cost per student that leaves this district. It's going up 102% or 17% a year over the last 6 years. That's what happens every time you raise the floor.
All right, Joel, you're at a total of 4 minutes now. So just ask you to be concise here. I don't want to shut you down. We're giving you some rope, but there are others in the audience who want to hold you to this.
Okay. All right, the last thing. Okay. Barrington this year pays $14.2 million for benefits for their employees. They have 80 more employees than we do. We're paying 14.5. Next year's ours is going up to over 15 million. And when it goes up to over 15 million, it means that 50% of so the ratio of benefits to compensation is at the 50% level. That is an outrageous percentage. Outrageous.
That's it, Doral. We're going to end it at that. Thank you.
Sorry.
Jim O'Neill, Wakefield. I'm in the business of finance and real estate, and always planning ahead for customers, clients, obviously. And so these one-year budgets are not fun. And I try to look ahead, planning for people's future. And I was hoping that we would have a level floor and even a reduction from that this year. And I've been around long enough. The Broad Rock opening era spending spree, I believe, is most of the reason why we're here tonight. We spent tens of millions of dollars we did not have to spend to keep schools open and protect jobs. That was between 2000 and 2008 when the state of Rhode Island came to our help on levy issues. School population at that time dropped like a rock. The FTEs climbed by 20% in those 8 years, in the middle of that. 20% up with FTEs, 519 to 621, while the school population dropped from 4383 to 3950. That lives with us today because those 8 years before the state put in the levy rules, we had an average of 8.1% average increase of the budget, school budget, 8.1%. If you know math, just divide it in 72, and you know the problems we had and why that faces us today. It's always a personnel issue, but the personnel are important to the schools, or 90% of the costs. So math is very important. What I'm looking a little fearful with is doomsday, I've called it, in 2 to 3 years, because we're going to need $3.5–4 million for the operations for both town and schools. At that time, we'll have the full effect of the principal and interest for the $150 million bond. That's $7 million. Combine the two to call it $11 million on roughly what will be an $85 million budget in 3 years. That's a 12% increase. I have to, it seems that you avoid it, but I have to present this to customers and clients and let them know, you're going to move here? Well, 3 years, you'll be looking at 11, 12 double digits for a long time. I have to have good reasons for that to happen. And it's very, very difficult here. But I don't know what the max levy at 44% now, with 12% increase of that particular budget that will carry on for the rest of the 20-year bond, is going to be a tough one to get folks to move to our community. And lastly, things I mentioned, but seniors.
Jim, you're well over.
All right, I'll be done to say seniors, elderly, small business, laborers out here, they need to hear from the council that you care about the costs of living in this community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Mark Kravitz, and I'm a parent of 2 children in South Kingstown schools. Before I share my concerns, I want to be clear. I support investing in our children's education. I support the new high school, and I'm willing to pay my fair share in taxes to make sure our kids have what they need. That is exactly why I'm here tonight. I'm encouraged by some of what I see. The town is increasing its support to schools for the first time in 5 years. Reserves are healthy, and we're staying well below the state tax cap. These are good signs, but they are this year's good signs, and that is exactly my concern. Every year we sit in rooms like this and we talk about this year's numbers. Every year there is pressure, uncertainty, and last-minute adjustments. And every year we start the conversation, seems, from scratch. That is not criticism of the people in this room. That is a structural problem. We are managing a long-term investment, a new high school, long-term debt, and our children's education with a very short-term planning process. That mismatch is what creates the annual pressure we all feel, and it does not have to be this way. Tonight's budget actually contains a debt schedule projecting costs all the way to 2032, as we've heard. That information is there, but is never connected to what it means for classrooms, teachers, and programs. The financial picture and the educational impact remain 2 separate conversations year after year. And here's why that matters right now. We are currently paying, we've heard about the $3 million a year in interest on the new high school, and around 2028, 2029, that jumps to nearly the $11 million annually. At the same time, state education aid is already down nearly 5% this year. If we wait until 2028 to have that conversation, we'll be back in this room in crisis mode, making reactive decisions about our children's education. So tonight, my ask is simple. Commit to connecting these dots publicly before next year's budget season begins, not in a spreadsheet buried in a presentation, but in a conversation with parents and this community about what our schools will look like in 2028 and beyond. We have earned that transparency, and our kids have earned that planning. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Anyone else in the audience wish to speak? If so, I invite you to just come on up to the podium.
Hello, I'm Dr. Gretchen Mocht, an associate professor at the University of Rhode Island. I am not Rhode Island born. I am not Rhode Island bred. I would like to be Rhode Island dead, but you're not making it super easy. When we moved here, we came here for the DLI program. I know we're not really allowed to mention that, but that's why we chose this school. I had the pick of any city and town in Rhode Island. Heck, I could have gone to Massachusetts. I could have lived over in New London, where I started before I got the house in Kingston, Rhode Island. You are the home school to the #1 public institution of New England. Act like it. You have people who are coming and interviewing at URI all the time. And they're like, where do you live? What is your school like? What is happening in your area? What is it like for kids to grow up in your community? The reason we stay at SK is not because of this, it's because of this. And I have no loyalty other than them. And if you want to continue to grow, like every land grant, sea grant institution in the country, where the #1 school district in the top 5 in the state is always where that university is, you have to really start to reconsider your priorities and plan. You are always being interviewed. You are always being measured. You are just being found wanting, and people who I work with choose to not live here or choose to send their kids elsewhere. So please, this is a contract of community and trust, and I am asking you to do better.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Pam Harley. I have 3 kids in the school district. I have 2 in the elementary schools, 1 in middle school. And I'm here to speak on behalf of the music program. You know, when people do look at this town, like what's amazing about our high school, one of the things is the music and theater department. And if you take away the elementary band, the elementary chorus, the elementary string program, it won't happen immediately because our 6th, 7th, and 8th graders have had the benefit of the full elementary program for music. But eventually you're going to take away the award-winning high school program we have here. So I ask you, as we build a brand new modern high school that should retain our families and attract new ones, please don't take away the programs that have already kept many of us here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Samantha Harley and I'm in 6th grade. My favorite class in school is band. Through band, I have made friends and gained so much knowledge. I love band and I would feel super sad if it was gone. Without band, you are stopping friendships from happening and kids from learning. Please keep music so that other kids can enjoy what I have.
Thank you. Okay. If anyone hasn't spoken yet or wishes to, I invite you to come on up. All right. Well, we're not doing 2 times tonight. You already got 5 minutes. No, we kept it at 2. You got 5. You wish to speak, you come at final budget adoption, public hearing, other opportunity to talk through any questions or issues you want to raise. But Seeing no one else wishing to speak, we're going to reach the end here. Any thoughts from Councilmember Clay?
So I know we said at the beginning of the meeting, the budget will be adopted on Monday. If you feel that you didn't say whatever you needed to, sorry, the 27th, Monday, I am out of my zone today. Monday, April 27th, we'll have our town council meeting. We'll adopt the budget. If you come up with something that you haven't been able to share, you want to share it with us, you can email us, you can call us, you can come to the meeting, microphone. Sorry, really losing it today. And I really just want to say I am thinking about the large scale themes we've heard, and I heard a lot of being proactive, find long-term solutions, think creatively is great, but we need to also think about the high school, incorporating that debt, making sense of all of that. We also have to, on the town council side, we also have really shared about many of the other projects we balance, right? We're looking at a new EMS building. We're going to have the opening on Friday. We're doing a project at the Peaceville Library. We have lots of interest in affordable housing initiatives. We do all these other people want us to pave the roads or do things. So we have to juggle 7 or 8 other balls as well as the school budget. And so I take away that big theme of like big picture. What are we going to do for the long-term health of the school system and the town side? So, and I hear that, and I also honor and value the students and the commitment. My children I did 36 years of education in South Kingstown with my kids, and they were athletes and musicians and all of that, and they're amazing humans today. And I know it's from the credit from the students or the teachers who are actually sitting here in this audience and beyond. And so that I feel for the students who feel a lot of angst about this process, and I certainly would never want to do this again. And I hear you, and I know on the budget side, on the school department, it's probably come every year. We were much more insulated from that advocacy. So that was a new revelation to me that, well, it hasn't been in here for a while. It's been with you for a while. And so I have a better perspective on that. And I'm committed to advocating in many ways to make change. There are things that we need to do at the macro level, at the state house, and the micro level in the district and the community. And I'm all about advocacy for change. You know, as a social worker, that's what I want to do in my life. So I'm here for it, and I'm here to help anyone and partner with anyone, any side of the aisle or issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Other thoughts, Stuart?
Yeah. First, I'd like to just acknowledge the teachers, the parents, the counselors who are obviously working incredibly hard and so closely with the students of our school system here to help them understand and develop the way they are. But more important is I want to speak to the students who are remaining anyway, and to those who might hear this. You've touched, you've moved, you've inspired me tonight to know that you have come up as middle schoolers, elementary schoolers, high schoolers to advocate on your behalf. You give me hope for the future. I implore you, continue to work for the things that you believe in and continue to speak out to truth to power, because we are in a situation where we need your voices. You will be our future, and we hope that you will continue on the road that you are. The last thing I want to say is, I guess when we look at the cuts that may or may not happen, or where that happens, I start to think about which person have we in the past let go that was that person that did touch somebody here, that made a difference in their life. And what happens if we do that again and miss somebody? And that concerns me. I know the music, I'm all for, obviously, I think we all get it that music, arts, and everything else is so important to breeding wonderful, wonderful human beings and the impact that it's having on individual lives. But I also want to be cautious of where those, not losing those people who are making a difference in our schools.
Thank you.
Just briefly, also want to thank everyone for coming out. And I think we heard loud and clear, and it seemed like we're all in agreement that we need to be thinking longer term than this one year after another. And I think if we had met 6 or 9 months ago, we wouldn't have predicted with precision exactly what this number would be, but that it would be something more than zero. And that we looked at it 2 years ago, we could have projected that we couldn't continue level funding far into the future. So I heard that from a lot of people tonight, and it sounds like everyone at both of these tables is in agreement that we need to be thinking more into the future so this sort of thing doesn't happen. And both of my kids were here last night speaking, and when my daughter got home, she said, I had to do that in 4th grade, I had to do that in 5th grade, and now I'm doing it in 8th grade. And she chose to go to South Kingstown High School, and she said, I don't have to do this again in high school. And by the end, I'm going to be able to vote. And if I have to do it again, I'm not voting for any of you. I think that includes me. So watch out for these kids, because they're the ones who are going to be voting for us before you know it. And they don't want this to continue.
Thank you. Any other thoughts, school committee members, council members? Good.
I would like to thank the students that came out last night and tonight, and just say, you do us proud. Thank you very much. And by the way, there's a whole bunch of you that will turn 18 at some point in your future. You need to run for school committee or town council.
All right. Any other thoughts? School committee members, town council members? All right. Well, that's going to conclude our meeting. I thank you all for coming. We appreciate your voices. We appreciate what you have to say. We do take it into consideration as we work through the budget. It's been another productive meeting. We've had some good collaboration, town council, school committee, town administration, school administration. So this has been a good process as far as what to expect. It's been said a few times, but final budget adoption will occur on Monday, April 27th, at which time we'll take up the amendments or changes to the preliminary budget we adopted on March 18th. So we encourage you to stay tuned, perhaps attend that meeting. But in the meantime, we get a little break, which is nice. So thank you all for coming, and have a good night.